The Questions Log, Week 21. What does it mean that reality has become a genre? A confabulation filed somewhere between pirates and science fiction. Somewhere along our cultural evolution, reality has come to represent a new kind of artifice. A simulacrum of spontaneity. A documentation of free will when, in fact, all you see is orchestrated by an unseen hand. As I watch the live debut of Lex Luthor's Infinity Inc. on a small television screen here in Kahndaq, I can't help but wonder, perhaps that's what reality has meant all along. This is 52 Pickup.
Hello, and welcome to 52 Pickup, the greatest podcast in the world. No, it's a podcast about the greatest comic you've never heard of.
It's a pretty good podcast, too, though.
I think it might be the greatest podcast in the world, though. That's my personal opinion, is that it's the greatest podcast in the world. But I'm here, am Gita, just Gita, and I'm joined, as always, by professional comic book expert Alex Jaffe. How are you?
That's me. I'm terrific. I'm Alex Jaffe. I'm a professional comic book expert. You've told them everything you need to know. Great job.
No problem. Anytime.
I feel amazing. I just read a fantastic issue of this comic book I'm obsessed with, and I am ready to get into every page of it.
Yes. This one is a really good issue because it introduces a lot of guys. That's my favorite thing that happens in this issue. Spoiler alert. There's a lot of guys, some of whom we'll never hear from ever again in our lives. But I like every single one of them. I think they're so cute.
Just a great group. We meet some old guys and new identities. This is one of those issues where we talk about where our intrepid team of Wade and Rucka and Jones and Morrison are like, maybe we should do our job of tying into the other comics that are going on at least a little.
Yeah. Dan's kind of mad about that this week. Maybe you think we could just throw him a bone or two. Maybe he'll shut up for a couple more days.
Let's get Dan off our backs this month.
Yeah, it's a lot what it feels like. We do get a little bit of tie into the whatever the hell is happening in the DC Comics extended universe.
Specifically Teen Titans, which it helps that Jeff Johns himself is writing that book. Yeah,
so he has intimate knowledge of what's going on at this period of time. I'm always happy to see the Teen Titans. It always makes me frustrated that DC has done such a poor job on capitalizing on how popular the Teen Titans cartoon was. Other than Teen Titans Go, I guess they just see that as all the Teen Titans anyone needs in the world to exist. But I disagree.
I will say that the Teen Titans YA graphic novel series has been doing gangbusters.
I'm sure it is. That is a smart business decision to have a YA graphic novel series based on the Teen Titans. But I still feel like there's plenty of teen heroes. There's always a teen hero in the DC universe. I don't understand why there's never a constantly running successful Teen Titans book. There should be.
Yeah, there is no Teen Titans book right now. It's pretty crazy. There's a Titans book, which is basically DC trying to do the story that Marv Wolfman and George Perez did in 1980 again, which seems to be their go-to tactic for Teen Titans.
We gotta stop doing that story. Yeah. We all know that story at this point in time.
Yeah.
Do it as a movie and then stop doing it. I don't want to see it in a comic book anymore.
Well, they tried to do it as a 4-season TV show, Gita, but maybe we'll talk about that in a bonus episode.
If you don't have the wig budget to make Starfire look right, then you shouldn't be doing it. Like, that's my opinion.
Yeah.
Listen, we all remember the first season of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Everybody remembers how bad those wigs looked. They looked super bad. The Targaryen wigs didn't look good at all. Second season, they looked great. Titans never reached that level where the wigs suddenly looked really good. And that's how you knew it was doomed.
You're right.
Yeah.
Look to the hairline.
Yeah, absolutely. Is it weird and stringy? Then you'll know.
Yeah.
You need Tyra Banks in the 2000s level wigs.
Yeah, otherwise, what are you doing?
Seriously.
Right. Well, We've got some of our usual gang on this issue, talent-wise. Joe Bennett and Jack Jadson at it again. David Barron, our backup colorist on coloring. We have a whole bunch of guys on this cover. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 guys on this cover. And maybe you'll recognize 3 of them.
Sorry, my Will Graham from Hannibal Funko Pop fell on the ground. I was trying not to run over it.
Oh, no.
I only buy Funko Pops of things I think are like, why would anyone make this Funko Pop? It's Will Graham from the end of season 1 of Hannibal, where he's got the weird grill on. And I was like, why would you want a Funko Pop of a traumatized man? I'm buying it. So that's what was happening there. But yes, you think you recognize some of them, right? Because it looks like Big Barda is there. But we will learn quickly that that's not Big Barda. If you're like me, who approaches Big Barda like Poochie, where it's like every time Big Barda's not on screen, people should be asking, where's Big Barda? So me, it's like hooting and hollering like a dog. Like, bark, 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 whenever I see her. But
which is something the current Birds of Prey comic is just absolutely nailing right now. Barda and Cassandra Cain are basically the stars of that book.
Okay, you're selling me on this immediately. I went to the comic book store and I was like, what the fuck should I be reading? I need to text Alex.
Oh, that's absolutely it. It's like Kelly Thompson is setting up Barda and Cass as the Colossus and Wolverine of DC. They're the fastball special. It's terrific.
You know, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Because she's small and pointy and her big.
And she's a big friend, yes.
That's exactly it. Oh, man, it's big man, little friend.
Exactly. The dynamics are on point. I think it might be my favorite DC book right now. Kelly Thompson's Birds of Prey.
I've lost track of what was happening with the last year's Batman and Robin, which was a Damian Wayne starring book, all about him having to move into a townhouse with Bruce and hating every minute of it while drawing his little animated fan characters, which I think is the cutest thing about Damian Wayne of all time. But that was for a minute my favorite book, and then time dilation and ADHD happened, so I forgot how many weeks it had been since the last book came out and lost track of it. So I'm happy to read about 2 of my favorite characters of all time. Thank you for letting me know.
Sure. There's also a terrific Barda YA graphic novel that just came out, Barda by Ngozi Okazu.
Oh, she's great.
Yeah, they're following that up with an Orion book. They're just doing the New Gods. They just announced at Comic-Con a couple weeks ago that Ram V, one of my favorite writers in comics right now, is going to be doing a New Gods book that also has Barda in it. So listen, it's a great year for Barda fans right now.
It's a good year to be one of the fans of the Fourth World. Okay, before we get into the issue, I just want to ask, for me, I love the Fourth World, not for any specific storyline, but just because it is such an incredibly interesting setting that specifically does not really ever make sense.
Right.
Right? That's what's good about it, right?
Yeah.
We're on the same page here. What's good about the Fourth World is that it kind of never makes sense.
Yeah, it's an alien world where one of Darkseid's major lieutenants is Kaiser Wilhelm, and their torture facility is an evil Disneyland. It's
that
great.
Rocks. That's just fun. You could tell 1,000 different kinds of stories in that environment. It's great. And you just don't really know anything about the good side of it other than they traded sons. And that's it. That's all you really need to know.
Right.
Because like the story of Mr. Miracle is the process of escaping. It's not having had escaped.
Right.
Yeah. It's wonderful. But nobody can really write the New Gods well. Nobody does it well. Very few people do it well.
Very few people do it well. Walt Simonson had a terrific Orion run back in 2000, which I think everybody who loved those Jack Kirby originals should read.
Okay.
But yeah, that seems to be basically it. It's hard to get your head around if you're not Jack Kirby. And we're not going to get a lot of it in this issue. We're talking about this because a character who looks like Big Barda is on the top right corner of this comic book cover.
She's just looks exactly like Big Barda, looks like the classic Big Barda. You would not ever have any reason to think that she was not Big Barda. And every time I look at her, I'm thinking Big Barda, but it's not Big Barda.
We'll get into it.
Yeah.
So we see these shattered golden triangles, each with a different hero on them. You might recognize a Raven. You might recognize a Beast Boy. You probably won't recognize the rest. In the middle of that shattering triangles are this collective of Natasha Irons and her LexCorp buddies from her genetically manufactured superhero team, like one of those pop bands that a corporation puts together.
Yeah, this is an industry plant, as they would say.
Yes, exactly. That's the word I was looking for. Yes. Infinity Inc. is an industry plant.
Yes. I think this storyline, the way it plays out, is really great. And I think with time, it's only aged. Now that we know so much more about how manufactured reality television is, especially like contestant-based like reality television, which is I love competition shows. So this is like a wonderful issue for me. We open up in Metropolis week 21, day 1, with a conversation between Lex and Natasha. And essentially, Natasha is trying to convince Lex to let the speedster back on the team that was cut a few issues ago, Eliza.
Yeah, Eliza Harmon, the drug addict.
Yes, she was on the sharp, and she's been clean for weeks now, and she's begging Lex to let her back. And as we turn the page, we see she's using her powers and running all around.
Oh, this is great. I love this page.
This is my favorite page because it's so cute. It makes everyone feel very human. It's a nice, fun little writer trick here. She's so excited. She's got speedsters up on the wall of her apartment. She has a big poster of Impulse, which makes me so happy.
Yeah, well, as we learn, Eliza and Impulse are from the same city. They're both from Manchester, Alabama. So that's why she's like between the lines, that's clearly why she's obsessed with speedsters, because her hometown hero is a speedster.
Yeah, and the best one. So.
Yeah, exactly. The Scans Daily one.
Exactly. She was on the same live journal community as me, and I can tell.
Oh, you better believe it.
It makes this character so much more likable than the last time we saw her. But just remember, when people are using, they act different. So everyone's happy. There's no nefarious undercurrent here, I'm sure. Lex Luthor wouldn't do anything horrible.
Not the former president.
Not the former president. That's never happened before. But we're leaving that scene there for now. On day 2, we move into the Nether Plains. Yeah.
This is the scene that Mark Waid gets to play around. Last we saw Ralph, he was messing around with the Helmet of Fate, who was telling him about the 10th age of magic and taking him on a journey through the various magical planes of reality in order to figure something out about what's been going on with his dead wife or whatever, and that weird cult ritual. Ralph is just looking for any answers whatsoever. He's always been a guy who solves mysteries, and now it seems like the mystery he's trying to solve is the mystery of the universe itself. And we find him conversing with a literal demon whose body is tied up like a pretzel.
I love this scene also. These are two great comic book scenes back to back.
Yeah.
It really makes me think of the interview we just did with Greg Greca, where he talked about some of the process for planning the issues, and they would say, essentially they would meet with the editors, and then the editors would ask, how many pages do you need for that? You can see in these two scenes the economy of writing, where they're allowing another scene to have as many other pages as they need. Both of these scenes are just 2 pages.
Yeah.
A very limited number of panels, but they both work perfectly.
So we find out that Ralph has dosed this demon with Jingold, which has allowed him to tie up his body, and is treating us to a little bit of body horror, telling us like, hey, what do you think is going to happen when the Jingold wears off and you're still stuck like this? And that's the way he's able to torture the demon into taking him on the next leg of his journey.
Yeah, it's cute. It's a cute little trick. You didn't think Jingold could be used offensively, could you?
Right. It's very much like that bit early on in Grant Morrison's JLA run, where Aquaman uses his powers to talk to fish to channel into the fish part of your evolutionary human brain to give you a seizure.
That's so great.
Yeah.
That's fun. I always love a creative application of powers. It's always fun when we get to
really
see.
JoJo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Essentially.
And Ralph kicks the demon down a flight of stairs when he tries to big dog him.
And he goes, shut up.
Shut up, like he's Bugs Goddamn Bunny.
It's so cute. I also love, he keeps talking about the Dr. Fate helmet, saying, and that's Dr. Fate. This floating helmet over here is Dr. Fate. It really is you trapped a film noir guy in an eldritch horror. It's very cute.
I love it.
Yes.
Yes, my Gal Friday is a floating helmet.
I think that could do pretty well as a movie. They probably should have done that, tried it out. You know, it's Gal Friday, but it's just a mystical being instead of a woman.
I would watch a Dr. Fate movie.
Same. I think they could do a good job, but they have to just do Dr. Fate and not do something that's not Dr. Fate at all.
Yeah, you don't do Dr. Fate in the multiverse of madness or whatever.
Yeah. Just have a zany madcap supernatural adventure.
Yeah.
With an evil helmet. That's what all anyone's asking for.
Well, a suspicious helmet.
It's a helmet with nefarious goals that we're unsure of.
It's a helmet you can't read the expression of, therefore you don't know what it's hiding. And that's
just a suspicious helmet.
A very suspicious helmet. We're back to Earth now on day 3. Back to Lex Luthor.
We're essentially in the producer's room of a reality television show set. So it's all sickly green because it's Lex Luthor and they're doing evil stuff. But it's just a bunch of monitors and cameras, right? And he's giving them instructions on what to shoot and what to look at for each given scene. This is how they do Housewives.
Yeah.
You know?
We got our title drop already. The issue is called Team Building Exercises. And this is the team I suppose it refers to.
Yeah. Possibly also the team of Ralph Dibny and Dr. Fate, the non-speaking helmet.
We saw that a little bit.
That's the only other team that we've seen so far.
But mostly this is Infinity Inc.
Yes.
Which is this is the first time we hear them referred to as that. Before now, they've just been like the everymans. And in the commentary for this issue, Jeff Johns talks about how this issue specifically was where they cracked this storyline with Natasha, because they kind of couldn't figure out what to do with it or where it was going until it was Stephen Wacker who suggested, what if Lex Luthor just like buys the name rights of this established superhero team and just completely shits over their legacy?
I mean, it works also very well because that was a then, at that time, current issue in DC Comics of who owns the name rights to specific characters.
Oh, yeah. That was a huge thing in Smallville at the time.
Yes.
People fighting around. DC was fighting the Siegel estate on who could use the name Superboy.
Yes. So it feels like just a reflection of reality a little bit of peeking behind the curtain of here's all the unglamorous businessy parts of creating superhero comics. Let's translate that into the creation of a superhero team as well.
Yeah.
It works very, very well because these kinds of stories, these kinds of showbiz stories are always really fun. Where it's somebody who's a true believer being manipulated by an evil producer, which is always how it happens.
Yep.
This is very have you seen the movie, what's her name in the Pussycats?
Josie and the Pussycats?
Josie and the Pussycats, the film.
Yes, I'm aware of it.
The movie is so good and you should watch it. You would think it was incredibly funny. There's shades of that movie in this where it's just a bunch of people who are meaning well, who are trying, but they don't know that they are essentially just tools of a capitalist plot. That is basically what happens. They're being set up for their big debut because Lex Luthor knows exactly where the villain is and who he is and owns him proprietarily, right?
Which is hilarious because it's literally what we saw Booster Gold doing a couple months ago, but on a bigger scale by a guy who knows what he's doing.
Yeah, so
this is
the
just
guy with
Booster
the whole
and Manthrax again.
Like television production team behind him. This is the same thing as Booster and Manthrax, just with higher production values.
Exactly. He controls the narrative.
The entertainment industry is diabolical. It gives shades. I know this is going to sound insane to you. It gives shades of the Hawk Tuah girl.
I don't follow.
Okay, so the Hawk Tuah girl is just a girl who was doing one of those TikTok interviews, and she said something that people thought was funny, and then people wanted to make her into a star. She doesn't seem to really care about this in a particular way, but she hates that her image is being used in a way that she doesn't want. So now she's just kind of forced to be in the public eye, whether she likes it or not. Essentially, she is like a small scale version of every attempt to make someone into a star. So you can find an attractive white person and people like them, and then on either on a small scale they have internet fame, or on a big scale they become like Sydney Sweeney. You know,
all I did was make a blowjob joke. Leave me alone.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
She doesn't want any of this, but she has to, and now she has to deal with this entire apparatus that will like enforce fame upon her. It's disgusting, but people also choose this, and they choose to look around and not directly at all of the forces that coerce them into behaving in particular ways, let's say, or believing or taking positions that they wouldn't normally take. Because this fight seems fine so far. I really like the way that they cut back and forth between the production room, which has that sickly neon green color, to the actual fight on the ground, where Lex and his fellow producers are saying, we're going to redub that after. You know, I bet they're literally making fun of the heroes and all of their little quips and how stupid they sound. Because it's not really about who they are as people, it's about the narrative they can make out of their actions.
I recently read the original Infinity Inc. run recently, which has Todd McFarlane on the art. This was kind of his breakout series back in the 80s. The premise of Infinity Inc. was that these were all the kids of the Justice Society of America. There's a lot of that sort of like trying to chase the success of like Claremont's X-Men, of like all these disparate heroes teaming up dynamically against this big villain. And that's something we're seeing a lot of in this particular scene where they're taking on Blockbuster, who does not seem to have any relationship to any of the previous characters in DC who've called themselves Blockbuster. He's kind of the Hulk. And
he's big.
Yeah. And Lex Luthor is kind of like modulating how strong he is so that he can affect the drama of the scene. It's just a really effective introduction of the entire team to the public, where different people get to be quippy. There's a great scene. One of my favorite bits is where the new Nuklon says, "It looks like it's time for Nuklon to go nuclear." And Lex Luthor from his production is like, "We've had 4 writers and we couldn't think of anything better than that."
It's so funny. That's my favorite bit too.
Yeah. Which is clearly a reference to like the 4 writers of this comic itself. It's like, well, we couldn't come up with anything before the deadline.
Yes. And at the time, even though it was painfully obvious for everyone to see, it was probably a shady reference to the fact that reality television shows do feed lines to the members on it. They have writers on employ because they want to manufacture what happens on these television shows.
And when Eliza kicks Blockbuster in the nuts, they're like, should we censor that? And Luthor's like, no, I kind of like that.
Reminds me of honestly what it really reminds me of, this whole sequence, is like originally reality TV shows like Torture Factories. They don't really do that as much anymore because like 10 years down the line, all the contestants from, I'm talking so much about reality TV. I just love it. I mean, I love it. It also disgusts me on a really like personal level.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, you understand what I mean.
Every week we talk about how like Lost and 24 influenced the structure of this, but reality television is a huge part of that landscape at the time of TV as well.
Well, we were coming off hot from the writer's strike, so things were still kind of getting back into order. So there was still like an unusual amount of reality television that was on and popular at that time.
I think the writer's strike was a little bit after this.
Oh, okay. Actually. Dang. Well, I'm dumb as hell. Writer's strike is 2008 and this is 2006, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So 2 years from the writer's strike. Reality television in 2008, when the writers were on strike, really did go into hyperdrive because it was just like they needed to put TV on and they needed to find scabs that were willing to work in teams of 1 or 2. Leading up to this, one of the things that writers saw as a threat to their well-being, because it was the popularity of reality TV, which could be made with a much smaller amount of writers.
Right.
Some of the things that they were afraid of happening did actually happen, in that reality television became extremely popular. But of course, people do like scripted content as well. But there's a lot of cynicism about the artificiality of reality television at this time, which was 100% correct. But also, people do really love the idea of someone being just like them. And like the biggest piece of reality television that influences the Everyman Project is probably American Idol.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, which was built off of the idea that you could be American Idol. You just have to stand in line for 8 hours a day and have a heart-touching personal story.
The fact that we see these throngs of thousands of people outside LexCorp lining up to get the powers is just like straight up imagery of people parked outside the audition tents in the first few episodes of whatever season of American Idol.
Yeah. Those, I used to really want to do that. I was like I was not even 16. I was maybe 13 years old. And I thought that like they do, like there's in the crowd scene when Infinity Inc. makes their big debut, you can see people around there, little tiny speech bubbles talking about how amazing they all look. And that's how it feels when you see these people that are just like you or me. And suddenly they are singing in a moment like this.
I had this recurring dream at the time when American Idol was just starting out that I would show up to one of these and I would just like open up my mouth like a gramophone, and without my mouth moving, just like the world's most beautiful song would come out of it. And the judges would just start openly weeping.
I mean, you can't say that didn't happen.
No.
Yeah, that might have happened. But they had to erase all memory of the occurrence because it was too beautiful for anyone to know.
In an infinite multiverse, anything is possible.
That's right. In a moment like this,
just standing there with my mouth open. Just broadcasting.
But for some reason, all I'm thinking about is like the bad minstrel songs from the jazz singer. It's like wah, 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 wah.
Oh, the sun shines bright on my old Kentucky home.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. They're just like, it's too beautiful. He wins right away. He is the American Idol. We all want to be like him.
Yeah, it was the democratized dream. Anyway, they did their good job beating up their manufactured villain. And who should show up but the Teen Titans? Or some configuration of them. Like I said, you might recognize Beast Boy and Raven, but there's also a bunch of other randos in here. What was going on in Teen Titans at the time, after the horrifying events of Infinite Crisis, where Superboy Prime just ripped a bunch of Titans in half and brutally murdered Con-El, it kind of left the team in shambles. And the narrative Jeff had building was that during that missing year, they had kind of auditioned 40 different members of the Teen Titans, with a lot of more obscure people coming and going before they settle on the final roster. Some of these we had seen at this point in Teen Titans, as 1 year later was happening as this was being written, like Zachary Zatara, dressed like a gender-flip Zatanna, who is her little cousin. And these two guys, Power Boy and Barda, and flying above them is this Firestorm ripoff called Hotspot, who I'll tell you a bit more about later. But yeah, we got them coming in on the scene. They're very upset about the fact they're running around calling themselves Infinity Inc. Eliza asks the question that Gita's been asking this whole time. It's like, are you Big Barda? And her only answer is, no, I'm Little Barda. And we never get any more information than that.
Nope. You'll never know. She never shows up again.
I mean, I imagine what happened was, like, my headcanon is that Granny Goodness needed a replacement for Big Barda after Barda escaped. So it's like, I'll train another one. I could do it again. And this is the result of that. But we never really get much of a follow-up.
Yeah. Again, there's just like gems that are dropped in these comic books that are never picked up on by other writers, even though they should have been. There is a lot of discussion in this scene between this iteration of the Teen Titans, or just regular Titans, and Infinity Inc. about why they are using this name and who all these people even freaking are. There's an animosity between these two super teams of a kind that I think everyone has seen before, where each member picks another member to bully. Why does this kind of scene show up so frequently when there's a team up where everybody has to pick one member to bully? It always happens this way.
Yeah.
It's never a joint bullying. They all kind of just pick people off one-on-one.
Because otherwise the scene gets too busy. You only have so many panels, and if everybody's shouting over each other, what you end up with is a Brian Michael Bendis comic, and no one wants that.
Oh boy, that's absolutely true. We're all the freaking... It just becomes spaghetti.
Right.
Nobody likes that. Remember that? There's that one panel from an X-Men book where it's just like the entire page is just word balloons.
Oh, trust me. I read Bendis, all 12 issues of Bendis's Legion of Superheroes reboot, and it's not a habit he's grown out of.
Nobody talks that much. When you do journalism, you learn that you will get all the information you need out of 1/2 hour of talking to somebody.
Yeah.
People talk so much less than they think they do because most of the time you're just saying or it's...
I mean, unless you're talking to Greg Rucka, in which case we need to shut him up after 2 hours because we have other things to do that day.
That was very fun. Please subscribe to aftermath.site if you'd like to hear this interview that we did with Greg Rucka. You can go to aftermath.site/products, and it'll be one of the bonus episodes that'll show up in your feed.
I'm excited for it.
It was really good. It was a very good interview. I'm still riding that high a little bit. I like all of the characters they introduce in Infinity Inc., even the ripoff guy. But the two that are most intriguing to me are Zachary Zatara and Little Barda. I'm sorry. Zachary Zatara is great because why shouldn't there be, he should be an influencer. That's perfect. What if he was a TikTok magic guy?
My main issue with Power Boy, who we have not talked about in this issue, who's standing right next to Barda through basically this entire issue, is that his boob window's not big enough.
It's not big
enough. If you're gonna make a gender swap Power Girl, go for it.
Yes, he should be so much sluttier looking.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be a boob window number 1.
Yeah,
it should be a butt cleavage window.
Yeah.
And he should be wearing the little red underpants that Troye Sivan wears in the music video for Got Me Started.
Absolutely.
Exactly. If he's not Troye Sivan, I don't want it.
Yeah. We learn a little bit more about Power Boy in the comic in the Teen Titans run, where his whole deal is that he, like Little Barda, is from Apokolips and escaped. And he's just really, really, really down bad for Supergirl. He is maniacally obsessed with Supergirl.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I understand that for sure. So then again, why is he not dressed 20% more of a whore?
Exactly. I just don't get it.
I just don't get it. They weren't brave enough at this time, I feel.
They're fighting over naming rights, and Lex Luthor is getting kind of sick of it. So he's like, well, time to turn the power back on Blockbuster.
Yeah, this is a false flag operation, essentially. Yeah. He sees again, it's it feels like we're being given a sly meta commentary about the act of comic creation, right? Mm-hmm. Where it's this is how the rhythm of the scene would work in every single other 2 super teams meet each other comic. Yeah. Where one team thinks they got the bad guy, but the bad guy has powers again. And then, wouldn't you know it, when Blockbuster reawakens, our speedster, who goes by Trajectory, terrible name.
Yeah. Well, she won't have to use it for long.
Yeah. She, this is a comic book. What do you think happens? She goes and she tries to put down Blockbuster again. But of course, at the crucial moment, Lex Luthor reveals something else, that he can turn off powers.
That was something that Kala Avesti revealed to Steel a week or 2 ago.
Yes, but now we see it in action.
Yeah. Before we get to that, I do want to point out the most Joe Bennett panel we have in this comic so far.
Please.
Just this lingering ass shot on Eliza as Blockbuster gets up. Almost every time we get Joe Bennett writing, we'll get one of these for no reason. We saw him doing it to Renee Montoya early on. Feels like an artist got bored here, so I might as well draw a big old butt.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you were just drawing pages all day long, at a certain point, you're like, what if this page had a butt in it?
Yeah.
I could just draw a butt here and nobody would notice because it's a comic book. Exactly. It's true. Nobody would notice because it's a comic book.
But not us. We noticed.
Call an ambulance. But not for me. She has her speed turned off and she is killed. And this is the dramatic moment that cements this super team as a team that is family because they're now mourning a loss.
And clearly the reason Lex Luthor agreed to put her back in the field to begin with. It's we need a heroic sacrifice and the drug addict is a liability. So I'm going to kill 2 birds here.
Yeah, it's America's Next Top Model type shit. Did you know in America's Next Top Model, one of the contestants came forward and said she told the producers that her friend had passed away, and then the next day the photo shoot was in an open grave?
What?
Yeah. Like, I'm not joking. Tyra Banks and Lex Luthor are the same.
Oh, God. They got the same forehead and everything.
Absolutely. Got a 5 head. They both know it. They're diabolical. Like, Tyra Banks is an evil, evil person. Oh my God. Yeah, it's like the level of manipulation that's going on here. And it's for the ratings, right? It's for the media to buy into this. And it's for the contestants to feel like they chose this, which is the scene that we're about to see.
I mean, if DC Comics knows anything, it's that the way to get people to tune in is to manufacture a tragic death. That's why Superboy had to die in Infinite Crisis in a story that wasn't really about Superboy. Well, gotta kill someone. Otherwise, what are we here for?
Yeah. So we are in Eliza Harmon's hometown of Manchester, Alabama, and they are having a memorial for her. There's a big banner. There's pictures of her everywhere. Infinity Inc. and the Teen Titans are at the funeral where Lex Luthor is giving a speech about how great Eliza was when he didn't even like her anyway.
Yeah.
At this point, the Teen Titans are a little bit frazzled by this.
Yeah.
So
this is one of the funniest parts where this, like, incarnation of the Teen Titans we just met just immediately comes apart at the seams at the future's like, this is too much for me, man. I didn't sign up to see kids die. So Hotspot leaves and little Barda and Power Boy leave, and Zachary Zatara stays on, but clearly he's just like kind of try to get it. He's trying to start something with Raven.
He's trying to sleep with Raven.
Yeah.
That's what's happening. I know they didn't have the concept of like of an influencer house at this point, but I would love to do Zachary Zatanna as that guy who's like, let's just go back to the influencer house and like we'll just cut some videos together and let's just see what happens.
Why haven't they done an influencer house Teen Titans run?
Because I don't work for DC and they should hire me.
I will say Adam Glass tried to do something like that with the character of Roundhouse, who's very much an influencer, but like it was too focused on this weird illegal prison that Damian was keeping underneath the tower.
Why would he do that? I mean, I know why he would do that, but come on. Damian, I just want to go to an anime con with Damian. I think about this all the time. Like, what if you took him to San Diego Comic-Con and got him a really high quality cosplay?
Yeah. Who's Damian's favorite Jujutsu Kaisen character?
Oh my God, it's Satoru for sure. He's the one that went evil because he just realized that non-curse users would never appreciate all the violence that he does.
Got it.
So it's obviously him. And then he makes Bruce the cosplay as Gojo. Oh man.
Well, guess who else is at this funeral? It's Big Silver John Henry Irons.
Yeah, Natasha's not happy to see him. He's being a very good uncle, I'll say, and that he's absolutely respected her wishes to not contact her, but he's worried about her and he's chosen a neutral public place, especially one where he can express condolences. But Natasha is just too traumatized by this whole experience to accept his apology.
But as Natasha storms off, it's veteran hero Beast Boy, who's done plenty of time at this point with both the Doom Patrol and the Teen Titans, who turns to John. He's like, you know what? You're right. Something's fucked up here. We gotta get to the bottom of this.
I love the way that this storyline progresses. In this reread, I hadn't, I guess, noticed how clean all these story arcs are, but they feel really good to read. Like, this feels like like when you open a book and you can tell it's been read 100 times before, but it's been treated with love and care. That's what it feels like to read this storyline. I
will say the Steel and Natasha storyline basically comes to a halt with issue 40. So this represents the exact halfway point of that storyline. And from here on out, for the next 20 issues of that story, I think this is right up there with the Question story. It's just like one of the strongest narratives in 52.
I completely agree. It feels like if the Question story is the the more pulpy in terms of like violence and globe trotting, that kind of stuff. This is pulpy just in terms of the drama, essentially. Like this is a celebrity focused story of two family members misunderstanding each other. And that is like it's well worn. It's a tale that's been told many, many different times with a different coat of paint on it, but being told by masters of the form.
Now, this issue does not have a character backup. I guess someone ran out of time. It's hard to juggle all these different creative teams. So instead, what we get is a 2-page coda in Australia checking in on the Red Tornado storyline, where he was found a while ago in the Australian outback by these like Aboriginal people. And we check in on this guy named Johnny Warawa, or Johnny Warawa. How do you pronounce that?
I don't know. Australians, don't tell us. I don't want to know. I'll ask
but
Luke
he's
later.
He's some kind of dingus dirtbag Australian mechanic who's fixing up Red Tornado to look like Mad Max. Don't worry about it. We'll never see him again.
Don't worry about it. We'll never see him ever again.
But what do you think of this Red Tornado design?
It rocks. I don't know why
it does rock.
This.
They should have just kept that.
He's got like wooden legs and weird spring hydraulic arms. And he's got one shoulder with a big pauldron in it. I love it when the one shoulder's got a big pauldron on it. It's
great, but I guess it would make him a nightmare to draw.
Yeah, there's so many little bits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the cyborg problem.
You know, there's a big radio in the middle of it.
I love it. Why not?
I love it.
But yeah, it's completely irrelevant. We'll never see this Johnny guy again. I guess maybe there was a thought of, I want to point out that his welder's mask looks like Bender from Futurama.
Oh, that's so funny. These guys are watching way too much fucking TV. It looks so exactly like it's just a drawing of Bender.
Yeah.
That's all that it is. Oh, man.
And in the next issue, we'll get to talk about Super Chief. I'm excited about that.
You sound very excited.
Yeah. What'd you think of this issue?
This issue is so good.
It rocks!
This issue is really good. This issue, I love the 52. It gives you a different taste of another really fun story every issue.
Yeah.
And you get 4 issues in a month instead of just 1. This is amazing shit.
It's the reason I'm into it. I've been chasing this high my whole life. It's like the first anime I really, really got into, like other than like Dragon Ball Z shit, where it's just on Toonami.
Yeah.
Like the first anime like I got on DVD and watched just from beginning to end was Cowboy Bebop. And since Cowboy Bebop, I've been watching anime trying to get something as good as Cowboy Bebop. And it just has never happened.
You're going to be waiting for a long, long, long time. You should check out Frieren because it's in the completely different direction, but like the care paid to animation and how it enhances the story, it's got that, which a lot of anime does not have the time or budget to do, but Frieren does have it. Also, low-key, it's about an autistic character, which I love. But anyway.
Oh, you sold me there.
Here we go.
I'm into it. But my point is, getting into comics through 52 is just mainlining a universe a way that no one has ever done before. So it's like, it's giving you that high that like, you're experiencing Billy Joel's "We Didn't Start the Fire" in real time.
Yeah, yes. It's exactly like that. I was thinking about this last night because I'm writing an essay about the Charlie XCX album Brat and Kamala Harris in this cultural moment and everything. And what makes Brat like transcend this cultural moment is that I know in the future, if I ever want to be mentally transported to the summer of 2024, I just have to listen to Brat. You know, where it's like, this has become a permanent.
This is the portal.
Yes. And 52 in a lot of ways is that portal to the first time I ever read a comic book.
Yes. Like it's my platonic ideal of what modern comics are, even though it's been almost 20 years.
Yeah, let's not think about that last part.
Let's not think about it.
No, I'm the same age as I was when I read this comic. I'm a teenager still. Mm-hmm. I don't have to worry about bills or taxes.
Yeah. I stopped thinking about aging at 2020, and I have resolved to remain thinking that way.
You know what? I think that's actually a really good plan and a very good idea.
It's just been 1 year since then.
It's basically just been 1 year since 2020.
What was your favorite part of this issue?
God, I think my favorite part is a live Eliza running around her room. That was just...
Yeah.
They give you... I knew when I saw it that she was going to end up dead by the end of the issue, but it's why that writing trick works so well is because you just get a tantalizing hint that there was more to this person, this human being that you saw on the page, and then they're gone.
For me, it was Ralph kicking a tied-up demon down a flight of stairs.
It is really funny.
Shouting at him to shut the fuck up.
It is really funny. Shut up!
And then he literally turns to the helmet like, where to next, Doc? He's just Bugs Bunny. Like, how do you not love that?
He's having a fun time.
What do you have for the Blackboard this week?
We have the same thing for the Blackboard. What's going on with the Teen Titans? I need to know everything. The other thing for the Blackboard was Power Boy's costume, which we did also already talk about, which is that it's like reverse color scheme of Power Girl. So it's white detailing on black. And the hole is just like a tiny keyhole that you could make by putting your index finger and your thumb together right at the collarbone. And it's like, that doesn't show any of the things that you see with Power Girl's costume. You better see all of his chest.
Yeah.
If that's going to be analogous to Power Girl's costume. And he also just like the character design otherwise, we did not have as good of an idea of what it looked like to make a character that would give the same emotional reaction to people who are attracted to men in 2006 as we are now. But it's still just like, I think, a poor showing. What, he's got a little blonde streak in his hair? Fuck off. You're not trying.
Yeah, but I mean, like, even when we're talking about art in 52, there's a lot of problems with escaping the male gaze, even when you're talking about, like, queer women.
Yeah. This team was not the right one for this specific task, which was make a male Power Girl. You know, like that's just something that I think you only now, when we have the elite work of Becky Cloonan, could we have figured this out particularly well.
I think Kieran Gillen would have killed it on Power Boy.
Yeah, no, I think Kieran Gillen would have figured something out. He's really good at writing evil sluts.
Yeah. Right. I want to talk about Hotspot, the Human Torch ripoff we see on that Teen Titans team. Hotspot was formerly known as Johto. He was a member of the Titans during the 1996 reboot, which saw a de-aged Ray Palmer, a teenage Ray Palmer, as the leader of the team because he got de-ageified in 0 Hour. So he's stuck in the body of a teenager. Because just another case of DC trying to figure out what to do with Titans post-Wolfman. And it introduced a bunch of fan favorite characters. Maybe you know of Tony Minetti, Argent. She was a Scans Daily favorite for a bit. But yeah, Johto was one of those. And he was reintroduced in the 2003 Teen Titans animated series in a season 1 episode, Winner Takes All, which was my favorite episode as a kid, which is the one where they all get teleported to this tournament and have to fight each other. Do you remember that one?
God, no, I don't remember that one at all.
Oh, it's so good. Jim Cummings voices the master of games, and it just introduces all these obscure Titans from various runs where they have to fight each other. And for the first time, Johto is renamed Hotspot, because as they found out, as the animators found out when they were working on the show, is that Johto is apparently a homophobic slur in Mexican culture.
No, not great.
Yeah. So Isaiah Crockett is now Hotspot from that point forward. And this comic right here is the first time we see him referred to as Hotspot. So that's the influence of the 2003 animated series creeping its way into comics.
That's really, 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 really funny. I'm sorry.
It is.
You accidentally named your character the F slur.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Exactly.
Whoopsie. We didn't mean to do that. Let's just find another word that means hot.
Yeah.
Let's just move on. Oh, man. It's important to Google things before you commit them to print. That's what that lesson is. So on the team, we also have Power Boy, who we've also talked about. Is there anything else we need to know about Little Barda, or she just really never show up again?
I would say the other thing about Little Barda, in the notes for this issue, Jeff Johns talks about how much he loves that Eddie Barrows drew her like popping a piece of chewing gum, because it's like the first time that someone from Apocalypse has encountered the idea of eating something for fun.
Or eating something, and she can only do so threateningly, of course. Oh, man, that's really great. I hope someone remembers that Little Barda exists someday.
Yeah, maybe she'll show up in Kelly Thompson's Teen Titans run. Who knows?
Who knows? Wink. We don't know anything about that. But
I certainly don't.
And then the last guy that we don't know of, obviously there's Beast Boy and Raven, which everyone who's seen the Teen Titans cartoon knows everything about now. But Zachary Zatara.
Zachary Zatara goes on to be a major supporting character in Paul Dini's Zatanna run in 2009, where he's basically her kid sidekick, but he's like kind of an irresponsible fame monster where he's just like he's out partying all the time, and Zatanna kind of has to rein him in and teach him to be more responsible about his magic use. It's a nice little dynamic.
Yeah, because that worked really well again in the Seven Soldiers of Victory, giving Zatanna a sidekick, essentially. So I think it works I think that having the Wednesday Addams-esque teen girl mentee is maybe more fun than her having to babysit a horrible little teenage boy. But I do see the appeal either way.
The other thing I want to note about this is that in the original breakdown art before Joe Bennett took over, that Keith Giffen did, as a joke, Keith drew Zachary Zatara's appearance here with the fishnet leggings. And because Joe was unfamiliar with the character, originally he was like, okay, let's do it. And he just drew Zachary right in the comic with the fishnets.
Whoa,
that was a joke.
No, they should have done it.
But they should have stuck with it.
They really should have stuck with it.
Yeah.
Because that
Come on.
That's good. Sorry.
Yeah.
It would have been more now in the age of 2024. Even though it's only been 1 year since 2020, I believe that they would actually have him wear the fishnets. And I think that would just rip. That would be so
Power
cool.
Boy's chest hole would be the size of his shirt, and Zachary Zatara would be wearing fishnets.
Yes. Power Boy's chest hole, like, just don't have him wear a shirt, you guys. Like,
just have him Hawkman it. Give him a little emblem on the center of his chest, and it's just bare otherwise.
Perfect! No, you've done it. Absolutely. Yeah. Man, just having a himbo team up between those two characters would be super fun.
Yeah.
Like think about, I'm always pitching great series to you on this podcast.
Yeah. I who have the power to greenlight them.
Yes, exactly. Picture this. Zachary Zatara and Power Boy live in a TikTok house.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I want for my next Teen Titans run. I will say that Power Boy sucks, and the more you learn about his character, the more he sucks. He is not down bad for Supergirl in a cute way. He's down for bad for Supergirl in a creepy stalker way. And he's eventually killed by a villain whose identity we never learn.
Oh, sick! That's just the writer reaching through the page to strangle them.
Yeah, it's like, enough of this.
Okay, so this is a new Power Boy. This is Troye Sivan, essentially.
Yeah, right.
My new Power Boy, who is just explicitly Troye Sivan, will pay Troy for the likeness. I'm sure he'd do it. He's Australian. What is he doing? You know, what are they doing over there? Going to the beach? Saying good day, mate? Stuff like that. Moving to Korea to be in K-pop bands, which I've learned there's a lot of Australians in K-pop bands. And then they have a TikTok house, and then that just writes itself. And they call themselves the Teen Titans, but then they get in trouble because the real Teen Titans are like, why did you use our copyrighted name?
Right.
Oh, well, maybe we can just put you in the T. Like, it's fine. Yeah, that's it. That's the idea. Great. Any notes? No, right? Straight to print? We're going. fantastic.
I have some people I would like to put on there. I'd like to put Roundhouse on there.
Yes.
I think there could be some interesting stuff to do with Connell there. That maybe he has a little bit of a feud with Power Boy.
Yes.
Because they're both kind of that same big ego place.
Yes, and then he can be... I would like Connell attempting to be Power Boy's mentor, but Power Boy rejecting that, like, aggressively all of the time.
Absolutely.
And Connell being really frustrated that he has to be the responsible one somehow. He doesn't want to be.
I think it would be fun to put Yara Flor, the new Wonder Girl, on there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. As just someone who's sick of all... She could either be someone who's sick of all their shit, or she could be like Sweet D.
Yeah, that's Sweet D is exactly what I had in my mind. She's like annoying, but in a really funny way.
Really funny way.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Oh, man. I would genuinely love that. I think that they should hire me to write this comic book. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Let's go to the mailbag.
Yes. What is in this bag of mail?
All right. Here's a question we have from one of our listeners who submitted their question to 52mailbag@gmail.com. It's from Violet. It says, "Hello, Gita and Alex. When you're reading old comics, what do you do with the letter columns? The completionist in me always wanted to read them since they're part of the issue, but they're usually so dense and often they suck. I skip them now. What do you do? P.S. Your bonus episode on The Flash motivated me to finally buy that yearly subscription to Aftermath. Being a subscriber rules and everyone should do it. Yes!
Yes, yes, yes. Got him.
Got him!
That's what he says. So what I do, I genuinely do try to read their letter columns a lot of the time if I'm reading the book in a format where the letter columns are collected. Not every book has them collected.
Mm-hmm.
I will often save reading the letter columns for issues where I know people will have had a really big reaction, though, if I'm feeling like I can't like make it through. Like, I understand it. Reading the novel chapter size portions of Watchmen that's all text is sometimes really difficult. I do get it, because you were just looking at a book that's mostly pictures. And that's a different kind of reading process. I have a difficulty switching from reading in one way to reading in a different way. But I think it's fine to not read them. I think they're interesting, but they are not the meat and potatoes of a comic book.
Sometimes they're great. Like, for instance, one of my favorite pieces of recent comic news is that Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky are putting out a collection of just the letter columns from their Sex Criminals run, and they're calling it Letter Daddies.
That's so funny. That's really, really cute. See, I think it's like in an archival way. I want all these things to be preserved.
Yeah.
But you don't necessarily then also have to read them. They're like for reference a lot of the time.
Every single issue of Denny O'Neill's The Question ended with a personal book recommendation from Denny O'Neill for like, here's how you get further into this character's head. And he'd suggest some book about like Zen philosophy or some book about like just whatever the subject matter of the issue was. Only one time did he ever recommend an actual comic, and that was Watchmen. But other than that, like, it's all just like, I went down so many rabbit holes following that recommended book list of just like old noir books and like serialized mysteries and just like books on philosophy and history. And it's just a really cool way to like get insights into what the writer was thinking. It also provides a great snapshot of where the fandom was at the moment. There's some great letter columns after they killed Jason Todd of fans being like, why did you do that? And they're like, I don't know, man. We took a vote.
Like, you could have stopped it. We were telling you to stop it. And you
I didn't think you'd actually do it.
Well, we said we were going to do it. Yeah, those columns are great. I always love I love when you find a column from someone that like lives relatively close to you. I was reading, it was a letter column for the Ray, but someone kept sending in letters from across the street from where I went to high school.
Sometimes you'll find a letter from like a young George R.R. Martin yelling about the X-Men. It's great.
It is pretty great. I don't think you need, I think maybe if you want to read them, save that is for your like a separate task.
Yeah.
Because I think it can interrupt the flow of a narrative sometimes. because like you're going back and forth between reading the book itself and then people's reactions to it. But don't feel bad if you can't read the letter columns. They'll always be there for you.
When I do read letter columns, it's usually not on my first read. It's when I'm revisiting a book and want to get more context for that book. Like, you don't watch a movie with the commentary before you watch the movie.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me.
All right, that's where we're at this week. Do we have any other questions?
I have a question, actually.
Oh, yeah? What is it?
Yeah. Come listen really closely.
All right, I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer.
Are you ready?
Ah!
52 Pickup is an Aftermath production created by Gita Jackson and Alex Jaffe and edited by Esper Quim with original music by John Ahrens. The views and opinions expressed on this show are solely those of the show's personalities and do not reflect those of DC Entertainment or Warner Brothers. Please rate and review our show wherever you can and send your questions and comments to 52mailbag@gmail.com. Never stop reading comics.